1 John 4. Hey, make sure you're here next week and bring your friends, will you? Because it's something fun I'm going to do next week, okay? Fun, just fun. 1 John chapter 4. Dear friends, verse 1. Do not believe everyone who claims to speak by the Spirit. You must test them to see if the Spirit they have comes from God. For there are many false prophets in the world. This is how we know if they have the Spirit of God. If a person claiming to be a prophet acknowledges that Jesus Christ came in a real body, that person has the Spirit of God. But if someone claims to be a prophet and does not acknowledge the truth about Jesus, that person is not from God. Such a person has the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard is coming into the world and indeed is already here. Okay, hang on to that for a minute. And let me give you a little bit of background, if you'll allow me. Oh, and Chrissy said, yes, please pray for her. So thank you, Chrissy. We did already. And by the way, I want to say hello to those who are online. I think my sister and Karen and Kevin are on up at the cabin. Hey. And Jasmine and Tony, and Phil. Yes? Well, hey, it's good to have you guys on. We're grateful that you have joined us. So in the Remedy Bible, I've kind of been touting this because Greg touted it to me, and I appreciate it. Okay, here's the Remedy. This is a paraphrase. My dear friends, do not trust every spirit being, but test all intelligent beings to see whether or not they are from God, and practice his methods and principles. That would be God's methods and principles. Because false prophets, misrepresenting God, have gone out into the world. Here's one way you can recognize the Spirit of God. Every intelligent being who comes from God will proclaim that Jesus Christ has come to earth in our humanity and perfectly revealed the Father. Here's your key. Perfectly revealed the Father. Don't forget that. Perfectly revealed the Father. But every intelligent being that does not proclaim that Jesus is the perfect revelation of the Father is not from God. This is the argument and mindset that comes from the enemy of Christ, who has been lying about God from the beginning. You have heard that false pictures of God and false purposes of the cross would come. In fact, they have already started to spread around the world. Okay, I want you to consider this. I want you to consider that the cultural context of this is Christian church in this day, following the crucifixion of Christ, were small bodies who met in homes. They didn't have the church building. There was the synagogue that the Jews were in, but the Christian body met in homes. John is not there. These are people he has met. These are people he has taught. He has taught them the truth of Jesus. He's taught them the truth that Jesus came to perfectly reveal the character of his Father. He's taught that the cross was for our salvation so that we could know that this is not what we were made for, first of all, and that Jesus came for real as the Son of God, perfectly divine, to this earth, born into humanity, to perfectly reveal the character of the Father, and then went to the cross and died to demonstrate that. Okay? So John is not there. John writes letters, and he seems to be writing, what did we discover at the very beginning of this study in 1 John? What has happened in this body of believers? Who remembers? What's happened? Something has happened. That's why there's a letter. Who remembers? Come on, you guys. What happened? Something happened in this body of believers. Something significant. False teachings came in as a result of there was a part of the body that had left. They weren't meeting together anymore. They believed they had arrived at this place. And this arriving at this place of, if I have arrived, I've gone through all the steps and I have arrived, I have attained to this place of, say, perfection, what don't I need? Well, I don't think fellowship is important. That's correct. I don't need fellowship. We talked about fellowship was important, but what's the big thing that I don't need? If I've arrived, I don't need Jesus. Yeah. Right? I don't need Jesus. And so John starts out with, wait. No, we heard, we saw, we touched. No, you're not getting it. We heard, we saw, we touched with our very hands. This one who is the Son of God. This one who came to save our lives. And he speaks more clearly here about to perfectly reveal the character of the Father. That's what he did. We saw him, we heard him, we touched him, and we are here to declare what the truth is. And so he writes this letter saying, because we're meeting in these little church gatherings, these are little home churches, that people would come to teach. So somebody comes. Here we are, we're a little body, and there's 30 or 40 of us, and we don't have a pastor, because Pastor John, he was evangelist John, he came and he taught us, and he started up our little body, and then he moved on. So here we are open and available and vulnerable to any teachers who may come. And John is hearing that teachers are coming in, probably some of those who left, because they know more now, are coming in and wanting to re-educate us about the truth of Jesus. Are you hearing that? And they are teaching something clearly that is in opposition, that's the word I want, that is in opposition to what John has been teaching. So John is here to declare again and again and again, and he says here, look, listen, don't trust everybody. Who do you trust? I wrote down some questions. Well, first of all, here's a statement. What we believe about God is important. What we believe about God is crucially important. Do you know what Christology is? Anybody know what Christology is? What's Christology? It's the study of Christ. It's the study of Christ and who he is. And then the question is, what is your Christology? What have you discovered? So tell me, what's your Christology? Do you know? What's your Christology, Jerry? How would you describe it? Can you? And I'm not meaning to put you on the spot.
It's hard to describe. More relationship.
It's a relationship. So Christology to you is a relationship with Jesus Christ that produces what?
Himself.
Well, that produces himself where? Just a minute, Van.
Yeah, it's all about that. It's less of me, more of him.
Okay.
So the less there is of me, he shines through. It's his life that people see.
Because he's living where? In you. So your Christology is, as you understand this, that your study has brought you to a place to realize that a relationship is important between you and Christ, who lives in you, and therefore demonstrates himself through you to others. Is that correct? Okay. Somebody else. What's your Christology? There's no wrong answers here. Just might redirect you.
So, kind of trying to put it really short.
Okay.
God is Jesus.
Ah.
God is love. God desires a relationship with us.
Mm.
He draws us.
So we have often said, and I appreciate that Greg says this a lot, we've often said that Jesus is God, yes? But do we say God is Jesus? See? God is Jesus. God is love. And the third piece was God is,
He desires a relationship.
he desires a relationship with us. So God is Jesus. God is love. God desires a relationship with us. We discover it through who? We discover it through Jesus. So John is speaking that here. So it's important to know what your Christology is. Okay? Christology. What do you believe about Christ? Oh, Van, you wanted me. What did you want? Are you tired? You can lay down. But right there. Because I think Edgar said you need to stay there. Just close your eyes. There you go. Awesome. I'll try to talk quiet, okay? Okay, so I want you to think about this. I really, really seriously want you to think about this. I don't want you to go home and just have another nice service. I really want you to think about this. What is your Christology? And then the next question I have for you is, what is your soteriology? Anybody know what that is? Soteriology. Does anybody besides Greg and maybe Brenda and Jesse know what soteriology is? And Christy? No? No? Brenda? You don't know what soteriology is? No? You guys? Soteriology?
Normally I do, but it's put it out of my brain. Study of.
It is the study of. That's the ology part. You got the end, ology. Soteriology. It is the study of salvation. It's the study of salvation. What is your soteriology? What do you understand about salvation? Two things, very important. 1 John 4, John is telling us in this letter, he wants us to understand correct Christology and correct soteriology. Because what is happening is people are coming in. It could be just anybody who comes in and says, hey, I'm a traveling itinerant, preacher, and I want to tell you some good news, and comes up here and kind of tells you anything. Philosophers were traveling around looking for a place to be able to spout their knowledge. And John is saying, wait, be careful. You only want to listen to those who have correct Christology and soteriology. I know those are big words, but I want you to hear them. You only listen to those who have correct Christology and correct soteriology. The correct Christology is God is Jesus, God is love, and he desires a relationship with us, and we discover that through Jesus. Correct soteriology is God is love, okay? God is love. God in Jesus saved our lives. Now that happens in Genesis. So in Genesis, there's three things that I wrote down here. In Genesis 2, God said, I want to save your life. I'm going to keep you well. I want you not to go to this place, right? God said. Satan said, God, he's so mean. He told you can't eat anything in this garden, didn't he? I mean, let's say how it was, right? God is so mean. Like he got this whole stinking garden out here that's full of everything, and God said, yeah, you can't eat anything. Isn't that what he said? Yes, that is what God said. He said, didn't God say you cannot eat of any tree in the garden? And Eve said, no, that's not true. He said we could eat of all the trees of the garden, just not this one. Oh, and then he said we couldn't touch it either. So God said, eat anything you want. Don't go here, I'm going to keep you safe. Satan said, didn't God say, I mean, how crazy is that? He puts you in this place with these beautiful things, and then he tells you can't eat it. Like, what kind of a God is that? And Eve said, no, I don't think that's what he said. Pretty sure he said we could eat anything we wanted, just don't come over here where I am right now talking to you. Let's make it real. This is real. God said something, and Satan said God said something different than what God said. So God said something to demonstrate his character of love and says, don't go there, you'll get hurt. Hey, look what I made for you. Oh, man, I love you. Let me just tell you what everything over here is called. Like, these are pomegranates. Yeah? They're the hardest thing to eat. And they're really bitter. I mean, sour when you eat them. And then there's things like avocados. Oh. I don't know. Avocados and mosquitoes are kind of in the same class for me.
Don't eat mosquitoes then. Just eat avocados.
So we're getting off track here because I got to let you guys go. So then you have Jesus who came in the garden to declare the truth of the character of his Father and put skin on Adam and Eve and said, oh no, this is the truth. This is the truth. My Father loves you so much, as do I, that we are going to save your lives. It says that God was with Jesus on the cross. Did you know that? It says that God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. See, this wasn't just a single thing. It wasn't that Jesus dies to satisfy the wrath and anger of God. Those people! Right? And so Jesus needed to come because he needed to satisfy the wrath. When you misread Romans, that's what you think he's doing. No, you see, God is Jesus. God is love. And God saved your life through his Son. And God is the lion. That's what people believe. That is not what it says. That is not what it says. So here's what I'd like you to consider. I'd like you to consider that John here is talking about spirit-filled prophets, messengers, spirit-filled confession, what is said, and spirit-filled allegiance, which is what you do with what you heard. So let me just finish this out. But you, dear children, verse 4, are in union with God and have rejected the lies about God told by these false prophets, because the one who is healing and recreating you in love is greater than the power of selfishness in the world. These false prophets originate from the world and therefore present a fallen human view of God. Got that? They're portraying him as a being who imposes law, inflicts punishment, and requires appeasement. And those are the teachings that are coming out of Christian-based teachers. This is not the world teaching. This comes from inside. That's what John is saying. This is coming from inside. The worldly people love this false picture of God. It's great to get someone to hate and be responsible for what your life is. We, however, are from God and present the truth. God was in the Son, restoring this creation to unity with himself. Who was? God was. And all those who truly know God listen to us and realize that the Father is exactly as the Son revealed him to be. But whoever is not from God distorts the truth about God and creates a disparity between the Father and the Son. This is how we recognize the spirit of truth and the spirit of falsehood. The spirit of truth affirms that Christ is an exact representation of the Father, while the spirit of falsehood proclaims that the Father needed the Son to turn away his anger and wrath. Couldn't have been said any better, right, Greg? That's amazing. So, I want to send you home considering, what is your Christology? What is your soteriology? What do you believe about Christ? What do you believe about salvation? And what is it for you?